Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Colin Dawson with another edition of the Political Minute. I just want to go out here and I'm going to go out on a limb and go completely conspiracy theory. Completely beyond everything conspiracy theory. There's this woman. The article is done by Yahoo, by ATAHABIH Germain. Thursday, October 21st, 2021, 5:36 p.m. was the post. It's a 3-minute read. 4'8" black woman was accosted by a group of boys. Minutes later, a Louisiana deputy was flinging her by her hair, and a shocking video investigation launched. I'm going to go out on a big cover-up limb here, and I don't really care over how any of this will look, be, or anything. Don't care. They'll probably send me to mental board anyway. I was told I was just a secular version, non-Christian version of everything, like Alex Jones. I do like Alex Jones back in the day, and I say he was beyond Havana sickness when he went to Spain and wanted the power given back to the Queen from the general. Mostly citing the colonial rebellion was still Mussolini. Granted, around here, they have not ever really even said that the Spanish king was back on the throne. And going to the high school I went to, the General Franco was still in charge of Spain. It's since changed with that, with certain people going to work and going around to other places. But most of the people that I know from Powell High School, then 2 years of my everything until like 19, they were all like, oh, the general still runs it. And then it's like, oh, no, we need jobs. So they changed that instantly. But I'm going to go on here and go out on the conspiracy theory. Everybody from Freddy Grey to Bryana Taylor to George Floyd all had a connection in Knoxville and the surrounding counties with families, uncles, everything else, all across the board. This is just going out there and trying to silence a bunch of people, whether they be oriental, and also the orientals that were killed by black people that they showed on the subways with people punching them in the face. Those were black Nazis. The people that they've killed here for the race riots and stuff are not black Nazis that were from Knoxville. They've killed the Orientals that have been from there. I'll be honest, there wasn't much left over in the white communities for it. There wasn't much other than a group that called themselves Latinx. They were there to exterminate the Latinos because it was only Latin, and anything else after Latin was that, and they just never said it was sexist. There is some major stuff that's coming up from everything. And with everything, this 4'8" person, I was about 3 foot something, and there was this person who was about a head taller than me back when I was little. And 3 undercover white police officers went over there and held her down, and you know how you can get your thumb and crush on someone's eye? They crushed all the way through her eye. She didn't want anybody to see her. She was really good looking. And they started calling her Lucky, the one-eyed cat. And they'd always call her Lucky. And it's like they'd scream Lucky at her and remind her of stuff, because she said she would never forget anything that happened in Knoxville, said that it wasn't a race riot. Almost everybody that they did go after did have Native American, and if you were like 15% by what they said over, they went after you straight out. And if you were over 7 years of age in 1980. This is just what it is. They went through the black communities. They went through the brown communities. We've actually had photograph evidence by the media from people that had these connections, came from Knoxville or whatever it is, out there over this in the oriental and the black communities. And it's probably just that, I can't watch news all the time. I probably miss someone who was brown. I probably miss someone who was considered Black Latin that's from the Mediterranean. I probably missed somebody who was white or this, that, and the other. Whatever you want to say. And they all have been recently here trying to say, well, it was a race riot against black people. And all the white people in the upper media are like, please just say there's hundreds of white people killed, and it was only because of all these other races, and we can finally have equality. It's getting really bad. People are not looking at this like they should, in some form of colonization by open Christian pilgrims underneath Rome, like in the Crusades. And eventually they will have to send over Crusader protection. And the big thing is I know people are going to be like, you have no proof, because there is none. A lot of people were taken off like Whitsack or something else, and had everything for them being here destroyed, supposedly, or else changed, and even some celebrities. Now, the main thing that I can say here is, if this is the same person, the three people who beat her up originally, and even reading the name, it really hit me. I couldn't even finish reading any of it. The three people that were white originally that took her eye, they represented the three parts of the Nazis, the three gangs of them. And this is the second beating of her. So, and a similar situation, and it was a black cop that ripped her braids out and ripped her hair off the side of her head. And once she put braids in her hair, the black police didn't do anything to her. And I want to say it was, when she was looking at me, that would be her left side. It was torn off right here. And when she was looking at me, it's her left eye. Now, I was told a long time ago that this person died and was gone. And there's been a lot of people showing up that, supposedly died in Knoxville. I'm just saying that there is an overwhelming situation that wherever people have moved to, tried to do anything, gone on vacations, whatever it is, the places that they've gone to, and honestly, Knoxville probably had the biggest connection to Seattle because of how much grunge music was just so popular here. And now none of that's on the radio or anything. You can't even find really new stuff in like 5 years on YouTube down here. It's like it's filtered out for the local regional server. It's just ridiculous with it. I've had everybody go on about Freddy Grey, and I'm like, yeah, I know, he held up the t-shirt, and it's like, this is what I'm going to be on. One day, you're going to see me. I'm going to be on a t-shirt. I'm going to get in the Secret Service, everything else, and he was the one that talked to me the most, and he was short, and he would talk to me, and everybody's like, no, your last name's Gray, so that means that you were a Confederate soldier, and that you were a black slaver and everything. In this article, it's like this. Outside of the Old South, the Confederate South, it took a person that's last name was Gray, 71 years old. I'm sure that it's like intentionally staged, knowing that this guy would try and say something. And he'd come over there and it's like, well, your last name's Gray. It doesn't say in the article that I noticed that he was black, but there was a guy named Gray that came over and ran him off, and then the police came over. And so it's kind of like, you get someone with the right last name or wrong last name. It's like mine's Dawson. I can't be found in New England. They would beat me to death because they would think I'm British. And I'm like, you're crazy. And it's like, well, didn't one of your family, yeah, let's just shut up about how slaves go there and they get slaves in England. Seriously, you're not considered British if you were slaves. There's even a song over it. Britons will never be slaves. Just going on more Bryana Taylor was the one they went on the most about, and all of that. And they would be going on, and I vaguely remember, and Taylor was a big name down here, and so was Bryana. It comes through in cycles. Vaguely remember being a 2-year-old thing, and I'm supposed to be like, when anybody leaves, I want to be cool like my cousins, and when everybody leaves, be like, I got nothing but love for you. And, I said that to her and leaned over, and she's like, I don't want to stay, Granny, and everything else. And they've been going on over and over for, all the way through the trial, someone would just come by and be like, and even chanting, Bryana doesn't love you, and I'm going, who? I don't even know a girl at the club that I've met that's named Bryana. And then it's like the George Floyd, it's like they'll hack in on the cable, and it's like, I was looking over his shoulder like that, looking down. It's like, Colin, that's exactly how George looked at you. Remember? And he was telling you about how his mama was going to move up there to the, the Reggie White economy out there at Green Bay Packers. I mean, this is just ridiculous with it all. And there's been a few other things out there with the oriental mama that got punched in the face on the New York subway, and her neck was broke and she died. And it was a black guy, and that's a black Nazi. And all the others aren't black Nazis from the area. And he's from the area locally. He hates me because his parents stopped doing stuff, or his uncles, and he's got to get revenge for it and everything. And that one oriental mama, people's walked by and been like, oh, we got a ghost walking by here. And that's what they would say when they left you, as the only person who knew anything in the oriental areas. So there's no one to back you up, because most people can't tell the difference between a Hispanic or a Roman and a person from the Orient. And this is just ridiculously crazy with all of it. And they're all trying to hush up everything so they can try and use Knoxville as a future racial war movement against people. And I know they say every 25 or 50 years they redo the Native American DNA core genome and stuff like that. And that's just BS, because we can't do that because of the Holocaust Remembrance Act and remembrance of Native First Peoples and everything, and fraud that would be along with that. Now, I just look at this as completely ridiculous that someone's going to try and make what was an obvious foreign incursion into the area against the Oak Ridge military base and the population around it, and trying to draw out parts of the military and everything else with how bad it was in Knoxville as basically, well, in 100 years we can use it as a race riot like Tulsa was. And I can feel really cool that I've done something and given black people something when it's killing everybody. And it's you have to be also protected by black people. They don't like that. They're not here to die like everybody in the propaganda said. They were there to die in Vietnam and everything else, which is bullshit. Everybody's if he dies or runs off, since he's a war criminal liaison from Black Nazi Africa, then that's just it. And I will say, going on conspiracy theory, on this Hunter's Moon, which is very big in Rome, I've noticed that 5 or 10 of these girls that I used to run into and everything else, and you can be they're over at strip clubs or have worked at strip clubs or something else. We'll just go with that, or else they were at a place that served alcohol. They have physically changed a whole lot and are using the same person's identity. Their lower teeth are wrong. Their mouth is wrong. Their forehead and head is wrong. It's like these people are wearing a wig, and it's someone that's even smaller in the head. It's I know everybody's going to say I got steroid head or something else. It's and I've got broad shoulders or something else. That's, I comment on it and whatever. Gives me something to do. But this is ridiculous. I mean, overly just like, okay, you're obviously not turned on by me, but you're wearing a like B cup now and you have no ass. Like you're an older girl who looks like these people, and now your jaw's in line with the rest of your face. This is ridiculous in a lot of it. I can go over there and, everybody's like, Colin, if you put this on for kids, it's like they're on the public street. Your kids can see it from a car. So, if anybody heard the person go, Mommy, what's a strip club? That came from basically this house over here, because they're kind of like an illegal FBI badge getter family. Even the white people go out there and shoot people for bread. But, whatever. Doesn't matter because I didn't videotape it, and videotape is inadmissible unless you're in the upper echelon of computers and economics around here. It's fascist. Anyway, moving back along with everything, went to another place. Only one girl was normal that was there. And then there's these two others, they're like old school bad girls from like something else that's not totally with the Nazis, but is, they've got family that's married into them around here in the World War I's. And ran into them, and one girl came over and it's like, so do you remember me? And I'm going, you were never blonde, and your head never looked like that, and you're not this girl from up there who's sandy-haired. And, they all make the jokes with that group that they just kill people they look like, come over here. It's no longer loyal to the royalty overseas, and they just drop them in a mine shaft because there's not any body parts, and they've checked after 96 feet. You just got to throw them so that they bounce off the sides. And then they go through and they pour mole crickets and cave crickets, because they're the carnivores and aren't the herbivores, down there, and they don't need light. And they just don't use anything that has flying insect parts or anything. But, there's hundreds of mines around here, old surface mines and everything else and everything. And it's kind of like, well, you only look at them for their body or something else like that and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, nope. But again, it's like this. We've already discussed how black people are killed off from Knoxville. We've already discussed how orientals are killed off in Knoxville because they use mass transit, and they don't go overseas on private planes and say, don't worry about me, how I'll get back. And now we've just kind of discussed kind of like the light brown to like eastern white European, if you want to say that, southeastern white European. And it's like they trickle back over, and it's like I've finally been able to move back over, and they just want you to come over so you can repaint the house and take care of whatever it is, and sell it off for commercial property to them at a loss. And it's like, why would you get rid of the fatties? It might curse you to make you fat. But moving right along, I'm probably sure here we're going to have a major thing with oriental people, because they need to get some sympathy for the people that's been pretending. And sure enough, like how President Ronald Reagan said, there's no way, presidential edict-wise, that we will be able to tell the difference between European Gauls and black people, which are black people from Europe, that don't necessarily always come from the South. They're anywhere that one has a kid and it's reverse albinoism. And you can tell that on a 24 DNA test point. That's been taken out under presidential edict. It's not been removed from the other presidents. So I'm probably pretty sure that there's going to be a couple of ethnic groups in Spain throughout the Mediterranean that we're going to find out presidential edicts have been made that we can't tell the difference in our DNA tests over Orientals and Oriental Jews or people targeted by the Japanese Empire in World War II. We're also going to find out that, and I do believe that this came up in 1998 as an edict by Bill Clinton, after 1994 and the bringing in of the Third Estate in 1992, that set up everything for Hitler and the way to call people 100%, 3/4, half, and a quarter for genocide purposes. And they worked in Italy first, and then they went to Germany, and they coordinated things with Japan via long-distance communications. Most of them ended up under the Nazi king in Luxembourg. I will also say there will probably be something about Latinos, since we're getting rid of the Latino separation and the Latin separation, and there'll be no way to tell anything amongst certain basically Native American groups and Hispanic groups and Latin Mediterranean groups, which does not extend past Venice, Italy for Latin. They have a different genetic genome makeup, and I've heard that that was taken care of somewhere in Bush as a presidential edict, saying that their genome was so little that we couldn't tell them physically. Also for their own safety. It's always put up that it's their own safety, because the bigger group is always trying to genocide and kill off the other group, which they kind of know who each other are in a way, and so forth and so on. I mean, there's some really big, scary things that are coming up. And I've had police and FBI constantly investigating me. Most of the police and FBI are replaced by the war criminals around here. There have been people that are banned from site that we're supposed to call, that were undercover police, that got banned from an area that I've worked at 3 different jobs. They're not allowed back on property, even to make an order for food. Not even to be delivered to. But we can't get restraining orders on them. And our business is supposed to provide those for us in the state of Tennessee, like Walmart does. Even if I'm fired from Walmart, the fact of my safety from other people that have threatened me are just that. And that have had me on a lawsuit. They have to provide you with that, just as Walmart has to provide that for me. Walmart does not have to pay any extra fees off of that for anything out there if they're ever put on a lawsuit. Now, in looking at this for anything, I look at it as a very major thing, since some of them were police, came in there and made jokes about bombs and blowing up things, and that they have since looked up all my property, everywhere that I could live at, and the neighbors have even said that it was disturbing for them, even though they were talking and had their badges on their hips, or else knew who they were, like with the infamous Subject Matt. Let's just say Subject Matt. We all know that there's a Matt. There's all 85 different Matts that aren't related to each other that are on the police force in a 1,000,000-person city. And that's just it. It's like the infamous Keith on federal situations. There's 85 different Keiths. We all know this Keith. We're not talking about the Keith, but we are talking about the Keith. But in looking at it all, this is something that I go, you don't really have a right to find out where I'm at. Technically, I could say right now I'm sitting in a friend's house and be like, well, it is my house, I'm renting it on this, or else I'm responsible for whatever's happening here while I'm here. And he'll come back around and check it out. I do not have to distinguish my family from friends or anything else, but someone who comes up and identifies them as a friend of mine and comes onto the property, whether it's rental or not, that's it. They can't be that friend because I wasn't introducing them with me. This is something that's been a reoccurring problem on any property I've been at, that friends or people have tried lying about something to show up and see me or something else like that and everything, and that's just how things go. And it's like all you have to do is just make an open thing about friends. It's like, well, I got friends that I can use for moving, and it's like Colin's so retarded and so dumb. They think two random guys are going to show up there or something else from some church or something. That's how they always are. And it's like, no, but maybe I can get you all arrested for something later. I just didn't want anybody touching my stuff as I was moving because I really don't trust anybody. Because they're all part of a theft ring at Walmart that they couldn't prove, and it's like, I'm not an investigator. Everything I say is wrong. And if you're in family court down here, they get to steal your family. And they go, that's defeating a person in a legal argument for anything else, and that's defeating a person in combat, of a form out there of combat. So even if you go out for a job and you don't get the job, you've stolen all their family. And you've really done that. And it's like George Washington, that they're citing off of it, had a kid. You don't get to live here. That's Roman Catholicism. It's illegal in this country. It really is. You're only allowed to have a Roman church because there may have been people that showed up here by accident, washing upon the shores or something else, so then they can leave. They have, I think, between 1 and 4 years, or else the next electional cycle of the president under executive order to leave. And that's what you're supposed to be gathering your tithe for. Not in any form of expansion of your church into any area. You can't expand into another area with your church until that church is like, there's no one here. And then it can pick up and move to another part, saying they came down to Mississippi instead of Potomac, or down the Tennessee, or up across through here on Portuguese missionary things with the reverse crescent, so to speak, of from South Carolina over to Mobile, Alabama, and Knoxville. This is the honest truth. You do not have the right of Christianity here. It's not just Britain. The French have been deported under the first term of George Washington. And the British were deported underneath the Congress. Many people have been deported from Sicily and Spain underneath the Supreme Court. This is just a common fact of life. It's not even how the United States church exists. And we have separation of church and state because we have no need or want of colonizing Europe. With all things considered, I'm going to end it right here. I know it's just a bunch of BS probably to a lot of people, but I'm just going to put this one on, not even give it really any description. Have a wonderful day, and take care of yourself. Colin Dawson, Political Minute.